but I think that has made her kind of dumb. Or maybe she was always dumb, I don't know.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Today we are starting another 48-hour reading vlog. It is just about 7 o'clock on Friday night, so this will go to just about 7 o'clock on Sunday night. And to be honest with you, I have once again fallen behind on my reading for the month. It is currently April 18th, and I have only finished one book. I am in the middle of a bunch of other books, though, so I'm hoping to make up some ground with this reading vlog. I am going to try, as I always do, to finish 3 books this weekend, and I've never met that goal. It means finishing a book tonight, reading one on Saturday and one on Sunday, in addition to all the other things I have going on. But I have always found that if I set a higher goal, I push for it more rather than setting a lower goal. And then I think, oh, I don't need to work as hard. And then I end up not even meeting the lower goal. So I'm going to set this high goal for myself, and we'll see how we come out. So the first book that I'm going to try and read tonight is The Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. And I need to read this tonight because it has to go back to the library tomorrow. I was already planning on a trip out there to pick up next month's library read, and it would just be a good time to get this, bring it back, and I want to finish it. So I'm going to tackle this one tonight. She's a long one. She clocks in at 466 pages, but the text is pretty big, and I have read For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten before, and that was a pretty easily digestible book, so I'm hoping that this one is similar and I can get through it, and if not finish it tonight, then knock it out in the morning. Once I'm done with that one, she's got to go back to the library. I'm also planning a trip to Half Price Books to do a minor unhaul and see if they've got anything I'm interested in out there. And if I finish that one, my read for tomorrow will be A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This is a fairly new release, and I've heard a lot of buzz about it. It's got, Nordic-inspired setting and romantasy, and I've just heard some really compelling things about it, and I'm excited to get into it. This one's not quite as chunky. She is at 414 words. So, I can finish about a 350 to 400 page book in a day, but I need to be reading most of the day. So we'll see if this one works out, just depending on how much I get done of Foxglove King. And then if I finish those two, I am going to try and finish Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey, which is, of course, the second book in the Expanse series that I have been laboring over for the past couple of days. So I'm about 30% of the way in, and I'm really compelled by it. I find the new characters really interesting, and the story to be like immediate and not quite as much of a slow build as it was in the first one. But that is contingent on me finishing these 2 books first. So, like I said, it's just about 7 o'clock. I've also got to get some writing done. I'm in the middle of Camp NaNoWriMo. I've had a couple of slow writing days that I need to make up for. So I'm going to read a little bit and just see what my pace is on The Foxglove King. And then maybe if I get to like 25%, I'll take a break and do some writing. And we'll just have to see how quickly or slowly this process goes. So I'm going to get started. I will check in with you when I hit the 25% mark. How about that? Good morning. I just have a very quick update for you because it is raining outside and I want to take advantage of the vibe to lay in bed and read. It is now Saturday morning, and I didn't get nearly as much read last night as I said that I would, and I don't know why I always promise that I'm going to be productive on a Friday night, knowing that Friday night is the night I like to just veg and relax. But I did read about 17%, so far this book is about a woman named Lore who has a natural gift of death magic, and that death magic is very tightly controlled in this world. It's dangerous. Stems from a dead goddess buried beneath the city, and so I think one of the most interesting aspects of the magic is that it can be
the death magic can actually be used to extend life by bringing yourself to the brink of death and then, like, doing something. I don't know. But I think that's really interesting. I really like the magic system. Unfortunately, I think part of the reason I wasn't really compelled to keep reading last night is because I do think that the fantasy elements, the magic, the parts that I do find interesting, are likely going to take a backseat to a romance. And I mean, that's fine, that's what romantasy is. I kind of anticipated something like that. I just didn't think it would be so blatant so early. I'm only on like page 65, and I can already see that a love triangle is being set up. We haven't even met the second like male character, who I think is going to be the other part of the love triangle. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. But we'll see. So I'm not really interested in that. It's not that I dislike it, and I do think that I could like romantasy, but I think part of my issue is when you give me something that's a really cool fantasy concept and it's just window dressing for a middle of the road romance, that does kind of leave me feeling dissatisfied. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm gonna lay in bed and read some more. It's supposed to rain for like another hour and a half, so I'm gonna read as much as I can. And then I've got some errands. I need to go to the library, in theory, to drop this book off. So I really need to get to reading. And then I want to go to Half Price Book The Rain. I don't know if that's going to occur. But I'm going to lay in bed. I'm going to try. My goal is to finish this today so I can take it back to the library, get into some of my other choices. But for now, I'm going to lay in bed and read. And I will check in with you guys in a little bit. Hey y'all, it is now Saturday, just afternoon. Actually, it's just about 1 o'clock. Anyway, I have decided I am going to DNF the Foxglove King at about 25%. I read about 50 more pages, and unfortunately, I just didn't really love any of it. We got into a part of the story where there's going to be some like court intrigue, and I love court intrigue. It's some of my favorite stuff that I like to read in fantasy books, especially. And it wasn't done very well. I'm not really liking the way the main character is handling all of this. And I understand that she's being thrust into this situation that she, basically blackmailed. She's not prepared to be a court spy or, any of it. But she was trained as a spy, sort of. Like a small-time spy. So you would think that she would know how to handle herself to a degree. And I just didn't get that. I felt like she bungled every interaction that she had. And then she goes back to her room and she's like, well, that went well. And it's just like, no, honey, it didn't. And yeah, don't fuck up court intrigue for me, please. And again, the romance aspects that we're building, just not really that interested in. And it's such a shame because, again, the death magic was really good, or really interesting, at least. I wanted to learn more about it. Of course, I love court intrigue, but, it wasn't done very well. So it did feel, on the whole, kind of like, I don't want to say a waste of time, but on the whole, it just felt just not for me. So it's still raining, but I looked and it's going to be raining pretty much all day. So I'm going to run out to the library. I don't think I'm going to make it to the bookstore today, though. It's just a little bit further out of the way, and I don't want to be out in the rain. And I could be here in bed reading. So I'm sorry, taking out my bookmark. And I'm going to take this back to the library. And when I get back, I am going to settle in with my other read, the A Fate Inked in Blood. I would show it to you, but you're sitting on it. So I'm going to come home and I'm going to get started on that, so that way this weekend isn't a complete waste. I'm so behind on reading. I finished one book. And I was hoping to have 4 done by the end of this weekend, and now I've just wasted like 12 hours because I DNF'd, but it's whatever. And the other reason I felt like okay with DNFing my library read is because the other book that I read was actually a different library read. It wasn't on my official TBR, but I checked it out from the app, and so even though I'm trying to use the actual brick and mortar library for my library reads, I figured that counted. So that way I can say that I at least read a library book this month. I am going to go back. I'm going to go to the library now, take this back, pick out next month's library read, and get some lunch because I decided to sleep on my decision to DNF, so I took a nap. And so I haven't eaten yet, and I'm really hungry. So I'm going to go run my errands, come back, get started on a Fate Inked in Blood, and get some writing done because I've gone another 3 days without writing again. I will go run my errands and check in with you guys once I've gotten started on a Fate Inked in Blood. Hey y'all, it is now Saturday afternoon, and I just got back from the library, and then I did end up going to the bookstore. I was just so disappointed with the selection that my library had that I was like, fine, I'm just going to go see what they have at the bookstore. And it was pouring the entire time, so maybe not the best time to go run book-related errands, but so I did find a couple of things at half price that I just wanted to show you. So first I picked up The World We Make, which is of course the sequel to N.K. Jemison's The City We Became. I haven't read The City We Became yet, but I really love N.K. Jemisin, and saw an opportunity to get the matching hardcover to my copy of The City We Became. So got to take that when it comes. And then I picked up Legends and Lattes. And I know that I have recently discovered that I am actually not a fan of cozy, whimsical, low stakes, no plot sort of stories, but when you see an opportunity to grab a smash hit for only $8, you have to take it. Maybe this can be just the book that I loan out to my friends and family if they wanted to, read something new instead of me actually reading it. I haven't actually read this. I just, from everything I heard about it and from what I've learned about myself of late with reading more serious fantasy, as pretentious as that makes me, I just don't know that this would actually be up my alley. But again, $8. Can't say no to that. And then lastly, I picked up this book, Dance of Cloaks by David Dalglish. And I know nothing about it. But again, my half-price books also doesn't have a very wide selection of books. Hey y'all, it is now Sunday morning, and I got to about 35% of a Fate Inked in Blood last night. And I don't know if you can tell from my annotations, but I am really liking it. I really am enjoying our POV character Freya, her struggles to, accept this new role she's in, her struggles to survive, to protect the people that she loves, even to protect people that she doesn't love, that she's never met before, her commitment to, the people that she is supposed to be sworn to now that, in theory, are going to serve the new united lands that she's supposed to, be serving. So I really enjoy her character. And what's even stranger is I don't even mind the love interest. I said earlier that it's not really a good sign for me when the love interest appears in the first couple of pages and they're already flirting and there's already like sexual chemistry. I just find that hard to believe. But the narrative that like it points out, like there are characters that point out that this character, this love interest, flirts as easily as he breathes, and even Freya, the main character, like muses over the fact that like his reaction to her, his interactions with her, like the flirting, is not special. It's not unique to her, but they are developing like a connection, and they have very similar situations going on where neither of them are really free, and yet neither of them are taking the chance to escape even when it is offered to them, and just feeling bound by duty and honor and all of that. So I'm really, really liking it. I wasn't sure that I would. I mean, I heard good things, but like I said, when I saw that love interest on the first five, like within the first 5 pages, I was like, ooh, I don't know. But it's just working for me. It just is. I've got a little bit of work to do today. I got to edit a video, and then I have homework, and then I've got to get some writing done. But my goal is to try and finish this today. I've got about 250 pages left. I think that's really doable in a day, but that's doable in a day where I don't have anything going on. So we'll see how much I can squeeze in, but my plan is to finish this today. If not, then definitely tomorrow. So I will check in with you when I've got a little bit more read, maybe around the 50% mark.
Hello, everyone. It is now a whole ass week later, and I'm not going to lie to you. I spent the last week down a hyperfixation rabbit hole, and I haven't accomplished hardly anything at all in terms of reading or writing. Finally came out of it this weekend, so I'm trying to play catch up on this dang book. So I just crossed the 50% mark, and I'm still really liking it, but there are some cracks starting to show right around this 50% mark. For the most part, I like the setting, I like Freya, and I like Bjorn, who's the male love interest. What I am starting to find myself a little bit irritated by is that Freya doesn't really have any agency, and she doesn't have any agency in the story in terms of like she's been blackmailed into this position that she's in. She doesn't really want it. All she wants is for her family to be safe, and she's just being manipulated by everyone. But there have been times where she's been offered a choice and that she chooses to stay in this position because she believes it'll keep her family safe or whatever. But what I'm finding to be really frustrating is that she's just reacting to things. She hasn't really been given a choice to, or she hasn't really been given an opportunity to figure things out on her own, or she's just being pulled along. And as she's going through these trials and tribulations, Bjorn is the one being clever and coming up with plans and executing those plans and bolstering her. And she's really just more of a convenient like tool, both literally in the plot and figuratively externally. And I'm a little bit over that at this point. Like I said, we just hit the 50% mark, and usually the midpoint is where characters flip from reacting to acting on their own. So we'll see. But the other thing is she has jumped to a couple of conclusions around this 50% mark that even I'm like, come on, girl, it's fucking obvious that you're wrong. And that's the one thing that frustrates me a lot with these romantasy stories is that, and this isn't necessarily the case with this one, but we're often told that the main female character is smart and resourceful and capable and all this stuff. And then we're repeatedly shown that she's not. We're not necessarily told that Freya is smart. So I'm not going to quibble about that. But she's just made some conclusions. She's just come to some conclusions pretty quickly and without much thought that if she put more than 12 seconds of thought into it, she would realize that there is more to be uncovered here. But instead, she's just like, handed this big clue and she just throws it away like, oh, everyone knows that. And then she just stumbled upon a secret plot and she immediately jumped to the conclusion that X person was responsible or is involved in this plot. And I mean, even if it wasn't like a trope that the first person you suspect is not the person responsible, like she has almost no evidence, but she's like firm in this belief. So I'm starting to get a little bit like, come on. It's starting to just be a little bit too convenient for the story, for story purposes. And that's where you kind of lose me. Is like you have to give me a little bit more than that. And like I said, Freya has never been claimed to be smart or even particularly clever. What she is she's stubborn, which I like. She is stridently loyal to the people who have earned her loyalty, which I also like. But I think that has made her kind of dumb. Or maybe she was always dumb. I don't know. Or maybe it's just me being someone who's written and read enough books that I can already see where this is going. And that is where being a writer possibly makes enjoying books more difficult. Because I can see these threads as they're being woven together. And I'm just like, oh, girl. No. So, like I said, I'm at the 54% mark is what Goodreads is telling me based on my page number. I'm going to try and read. It is Sunday night, Sunday the following week from when I started it. And I'm going to try and finish this over the next 2 days so I can knock it out in the month of April. We'll see if that pans out. So I'll check in with you tomorrow after I've done a little bit more reading. But so far, I like the romance plot, and this is always what seems to happen with these romanticides is that the romance plot is good. It's the fantasy plot that suffers, and I'm starting to pick up on that now. So far, it's good. I'm enjoying it, but we've got to give our main female characters some brains at some point, and not just by telling us, but showing us. And I know, like, you have to move the plot along somehow, but make the male character a dumbass for once. All right, well, that is it. I will check in with you guys tomorrow once I've done a little bit more reading and gotten a little bit further along. Hello, it is now Tuesday, the very last day of April, and I am here to report that I finally finished A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen, wrapping up this very uncozy week and a half long reading vlog. And while I'm glad that I finished it and I managed to sneak it in into April, I gotta say, the last third of this book was a little bit of a disappointment. It was just very, very predictable. Very predictable. If you have a thought while you're reading this and going, I wonder if that's going to come up later, I promise you it does. Or if you say to yourself, this seems like a really obvious ending to this arc. Maybe she'll go a different direction. She does not. It's all correct. That's really my biggest issue, is that in order to achieve this very predictable ending, you have to assume that the main character is dumber than a box of rocks. And which is so frustrating because she's so good through most of this book. And then to sell the ending, we have to completely turn her into this one-dimensional, one-track mind sort of person. And it's just not fair to the character, and it's not fair to us as readers, really. Because I like the setting, and I like the plot. And there was one little thing at the end that I hadn't guessed. I mean, like, parts of it I guessed. I mean, it was pretty obvious, but the specifics of it I hadn't quite pinned down, so that I was really pleased with that part, and that's what really makes me interested in the sequel more than anything else about the ending. So really that's my big problem with this, is that the main character becomes a vehicle to forward a plot along that we've all seen before. Throughout the book, Freya is being used and manipulated and wielded literally as a tool, and like the man she is married to literally talks about controlling her. The person who controls her will have this great destiny, and he is an objectively horrible person who does objectively horrible things, and she hates him. She literally hates him, but because of this ending, she's like, oh, he must be better because he didn't, at least he didn't lie to me. And I really, really fucking hate that mindset because it weakens the character. No character who is supposed to be good, like Freya is supposed to be throughout this book, would objectively think, getting into minor spoilers here, that going back to that person and helping him further is a good thing. Nobody, she wouldn't, and if you want us to think that she really believes that, then that diminishes her. It's just a disappointment, because it was so good up until that point. I was really into it. I really like the setting, and the romance I was really into as well. They have really good banter, at least in the first part of it. I was cruising along at about a 4-star rating for most of it, and then the last part of it bumped it down to a 3, maybe a 3.5. I have to sleep on it, I think, and figure out how much of a disappointment it was. I wish authors would stop doing it this way. I wish they would give us a bead on a plot line and then flip the script on it. And maybe I'm just too genre savvy. I mean, I've thought a lot of times when I've predicted endings, if that's my fault. If I've spent too much time thinking about how I would create this narrative and how I would surprise a reader, that I have lost the ability to be surprised, or that the generic tools and tricks that writers use to craft their narratives are just too obvious to me because I spent so much time thinking about them myself. I suppose that's possible. Let me know in the comments if any part of this ending was surprising to you, because it was not in any way surprising to me, except for that one little element that I mentioned. Yeah, what a bummer. I'm going to sleep on it and think long and hard about whether, like, you can see here, I really loved the first part of this book, and then as we got towards the end, I was just like, I didn't even like have the heart to tab the frustrating part. I just was like, please just let's get it over with, because I knew it was coming. I even like skipped the entire sex scene because I didn't need it. I knew exactly what was going to follow right after, and I was right. Probably pick up the sequel because there are still elements that I'm intrigued by, and I do like the setting. I want to read more Nordic-inspired fantasy. I'm going to put that on my to-do list. But for now, I'm going to set this aside with a disappointed sigh, and I guess you'll find out more about how I feel about it in my May reading wrap-up, since this is not going to make it into my April one. So that is A Fate Inked in Blood. And with that, I wrap up this quite lengthy, not a cozy 48-hour reading vlog at all, but a reading vlog of some order. Next up on my channel, I will be bringing you my May cozy reset, and boy do I need it after the reading slump I have been in up until this week, where I was cramming in books before the end of the month. I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then.